Hello, welcome to the 13th episode Aussie Footy Show presented by the BJ Show. This round we'll be sharing Mother's Day round and happy all the Mother's Day. I hope you had a super awesome day. But I would like to share and let's get straight into the first game was the Thursday night football. And I've got to say, what a game this was. So, the Fremantle Dockers back home base, they take on Collingwood. Collingwood has some big West players and 47,780 packed the Optus Stadium. And I've got to say, what a game this was. And I'm going to go through the AFL app. Sorry, that is a free app, so make sure you do that. So I'm doing a slightly different this episode. So, and all the reviews and thoughts will be on that. So, look, I got to say with the Fremantle Dockers, it was a very disappointing performance in round 8, which I will share right there, is against St Kilda. Now, you go back at home, you're going to bounce back. And you did. Oh my goodness, Collingwood knew how important that Fremantle were going to come back. 4 goals in a quarter. Then you get 3 goals in the second. 1 goal. You really let Collingwood into that game. Then 4 in the last half, or technically in the last quarter. So winning the quarters are important for finishing them off. And you had opportunities to win this game. But a really good effort. A much better effort than that horrible 10-goal loss against St Kilda. And, Fremantle just really did step up. And I'll share some players such as Andrew Bradshaw, Jordan Clark, Luke Ryan, Bolton, Shillong, and I'll include Jackson. You totally dominated. But Collingwood, really, really big win. What good teams do. Jack Cripps, Darcy Cameron busy in the ruck, Johnny Elliott, a bag of goals. That's what a good small forward does. Really, when your key forward's down, you step up, and they did it beautiful. But when you really dominate hard, like a Ned Long leads the way with tackles, well done, mate, But it's a team effort. So I'm going to leave it from there for this game. But well done to Collingwood taking the win. You're second on the ladder, and we'll find out how any draws can actually happen. In the first time this season, 12 months ago, we'll share that very soon. We'll share these wins and draws. It doesn't just happen very often. 12 months later, you got a draw. So knowing that team has absolutely shown, and we'll take that draw. But anyway, I'm going to share the best player. I will be doing a double player for the showdown, as for one player each team deserves a best on ground. But I will not be doing to the other teams because they are not showdowns or Western derbies or Sydney derbies or the Q Clash. Do apologise not doing them, but I promise that we'll do them on the next one and future reference. So let's get into the part of the game. Make it nice and simple. Mate, he kicked 6 goals, 14 disposals, with those 8 marks, 1 tackle, 108 AFL fantasy. Jamie Elliott, well done. You are the player of the game. Well done, and all the best against the Crows, as Adelaide will be heading to the MCG. Will be an absolute beauty of a game. 50,000 pack at the MCG. So well done on Collingwood taking the W over in the West. Okie dokie. Second game. And this was a smudge game. With this fella is one important in the AFL calendar. A very sad, but celebrating such a wise man for St Kilda. And they take on Carlton. Now, wasn't the win but St Kilda needed, but this crowd shown so much respect of 65,680 at the MCG. Carlton take a big win here. And before we get to Carlton, well, look, it was an emotional night, but both clubs and umpires and officials came together to do a minute silence for this greatest man. And knowing that St Kilda will be very proud of their efforts against Fremantle last week, showed them at the MCG on the prior night, at the MCG on the Friday night, and unfortunately just not getting that win. But, playing the MCG is really important, and I think St Kilda, be proud of what you did, not just last week at Marble, but come to the MCG, 65,680 pack for your supporters. That's pretty good effort. And against a team that are up and down in their form, won the last 3 in a row, lost against the Crows, and now come and take on the Saints. St Kilda, you started well and absolutely fired this game up well. Then Carlton just took control after that. And, you did the hard way, but you did the strong way. But the players I'd like to thank is Charlie Kuznell. Well done on your 3 goals. 3 goals, Mackay. Big game performance. But you have your Sherman absolutely dominated. You got your Hall. You got, Sinclair dominated. Higgins unfortunately went down with an injury in that game. So teams need to step up big time. And they did. Yeah, Rangaming, Miller, absolute dominate for St Kilda, and Patrick Cripps for the Mighty Blues. So going with Carlton, look, they went down with a massive defender of Mitch McGovern and for Macrow. And I tell you right now, coming to be the forward-to defender, it changes up so much. He wants to be like his brother, plays for West Coast, Jim McGovern. And I tell you right now, he can kick goals, McGovern, but he's more a defender now. And look, well done to Carlton. He knew this game was becoming to be a bit motion for St Kilda, but caught your emotions in and put the game on and went step better to take the win. Back in Melbourne, back into the MCG. You have played it several times now, and yeah, we know how important these play games will be like, and you've shown that in front of St Kilda supporters and normally the Carlton Blues supporters for a win. So well done on Carlton, defeated 77-62 with, I know Aiden will share a bit more in scoring results and all that, but I will now going to give you the play of the game, Patrick Cripps. Now, may not kick goals, but those super hinds was 108 for fantasy, 26 disposals with 2 marks, 10 tackles, 2 hit-outs. So, well done on your game performance, Patrick Cripps from Carlton Blues with the win. Okay, time to hit the Super Saturday football. The first one is Melbourne versus Hawthorn at the MCG. Then we go to Essendon and Sydney at Marble. Double header for Saturday night football. We have Gold Coast versus Western Bulldogs at TIO Stadium in Darwin. And then we finish off with the Showdown 57. Absolutely maybe a game of the round. The Port Adelaide take on the Adelaide Crows at the Adelaide Oval. So let's get to game 1 out of those 4 games with the Melbourne Demons and Hawthorn Hawks. Okay, so back at the MCG. And this was quite a good game to actually, unfortunately, not able to watch this game because being a Saturday working and all that. But for the second time this round, we are back at the MCG, and well done to Hawthorn taking the win. And wasn't it easy that Melbourne did came out quite well, and the final score 13-30-91 to 7 goals, 14-56. So it wasn't a thumping win for the Hawthorn Footy Club. It was a 35-point victory. So it was a reasonable win. And Hawthorn are still playing some great footy. So I think because Melbourne Demons goal kicking was the third quarter. And 2 goals, 3 at the, my apologies. Yeah, no, actually not too bad. I meant to say was the second quarter. They kicked 2 goals, 7 to Hawthorn, 2 goals, 2. So, quite honest with you, Hawthorn should be actually down, but Melbourne should be winning at that point. But it was only 1 point the difference and should be about 3-4 goal lead to Melbourne. But I think they really did cost them the game from the second quarter, but that's okay. It's a game of football. But this crowd attendance was 50,351. So, a 50% sold out crowd, which is perfect for a Melbourne home game. And I think that is fantastic. Well, let's go through a few of the players who dominate in this game. So, Rowie from Melbourne. We got Whoopi from Hawthorn. We've got Petrarca. He dominated alright. So, there's just to name a few. We've got Matt Scorn, another game performance. We'll share on my thoughts and best on ground very soon. But Jack Dunstan kicking a better like the leading goal kicker for the day. The hit outs from comfortable lead to Matt Scorn. And tell you right now that Hawthorn really needed to win this game, keep themselves a hunt for that top 4, and I think the top 8 is coming nicely after 9 rounds, and really a really solid performance. They do take on heading to Darwin and at TIO Stadium. Gold Coast stays in Darwin for that weekend, prepared for big Thursday night clash. We'll share who I think will win that game, but that'll be it for them, and they have to start well. Gold Coast are going to be pretty hurt, but another was goal for the mighty Hawthorn Hawk. West Melbourne, effort to effort. You in that game, maybe all game, down by a point at half time, then lose by 35 points. A little disappointing, and that big performance from Matt Scorn, like I mentioned before, great effort. And Melbourne, this is going to be a off-season balance style. Not started well, but coming to get some few wins on the board. But I think it's going to be on that bottom half of that ladder where Richmond, North Melbourne, West Coast are going to be. I think they're going to be in that position, unfortunately. Knowing that, I thought they're going to be a bit better this season and take them a step further and further better. But they've got some great talent, Melbourne, but I think they'll learn from this. They do take on, and we'll share very soon with this game, which I think is going to be a really good test. They go to Brisbane, and it doesn't get any easier. They do take on the reigning premiers. Brisbane will be a good test. I think they'll be in that contest. It's a Sunday afternoon. Great to have Sunday afternoon in Brisbane. Be nice and hot. So they need to prepare, get there early and prepare the conditions they need to get used to play some great game of football. But getting back to the result, well done to Hawthorn taking the win. Melbourne heads up. We come to the player of the game now. There's so many good players I have to choose, and look, it's always a really good choice and not choice. But this man from Hawthorn, James Ropey, really great, 50-50 from midfield, from forward and defence. He dominated with 28 disposals, 2 marks, 10 tackles. No goal, unfortunately, was that one behind 113 AFL fans at T. So knowing that, 14 contested possessions including that, and absolute dominating, and unfortunately he'll dominate well enough. 7 scoring involvement as well. So right here, 91 minutes 55 out of 120, 58 on ground, which his pressure was 26, 345 metres game, 6 clearances including this. So like I said, and 3 inside 50s. So put together, that is a great performance. So well done to James Whitby from the Hawthorn Hawkstar. We got Twilight Football at Marble Stadium, 43,799 at Marble Stadium. As I mentioned, when we have Essendon Bombers take on Sydney Swans, which I think this was anyone's game. It was a pretty hard game tip, but I think that Sydney will come into massive confidence against the Giants, and as well Essendon holding a big win against North Melbourne. I really think this was going to be, unfortunately, an Essendon victory. Fortunately, on my footy team, I tipped Sydney, and I thought a lot of people tipped Sydney for this game to win, and they had momentum and knowing they were favourites. But Essendon, I thought in my Aussie footy show last week that I actually chose Essendon to win, so that was a bit of an error. I don't know what happened there, but it doesn't matter. Big winners for Essendon. Defeated the Sydney Swans. Big victories. Kicking accuracy, 11-5, 71 to 8-15, 63. So the game was close, but one stage that it was just a blowout to about a 6-goal lead to Sydney. So knowing that was really good, but we'll go to Sydney first. So, this was going to be a test for Sydney. I think this is going to be a totally test season for Dean Cox. They're going to get some good wins. They've got to start well. They need to start really well. Bring the pressure on early for Essendon's pressure and do so well. But Essendon just kick accuracy. They're so quick they play. They're smart of game of football, and just to name a few players absolutely dominated with Nick Martin, Andrew McGrath, we got Will Daniford, and we got Zach Reed from the Sydney Swans. Brody Grundy play a really good game. We got Chad Winger from the Sydney Swans, James Rowbottom from the Sydney Swans. So knowing that a big day out for Nat Handy, from the key forward, absolutely dominated. Zach Marriott did his role. pretty well. So that's the name, and as well, Sam Durkheim from Essendon as well. So more Essendon because they dominate. But credit to Sydney, getting back to that, totally dominated, and this has to be a win for them. Then they do take on Sydney, do take on Carlton. So back at the SCG, it's going to be a really good test. They've got a 6-day break, so surely they'll be back home on a Friday night in front of their orange and white Swan supporters, and the Navy Blues will also be travelling to Sydney. So, you never know. Sydney are favourites to win this game, but doesn't mean anything. But knowing that Sydney were favourite, Essendon win. So don't look at the favourites who's going to win. It's just who is the team on the field who wins the game. So I reckon, and I'll share very soon, but I think Sydney will bounce back. It's only 8 points. It was a close game, but Sydney should have won that. The accuracy of kicking cost them the game in that final quarter. So heads up Sydney, Essendon, must win, tick off the box, back-to-back wins. That you're finding ways to win games. Low percentage. You got to get big wins on the board. You can't just go into the top 8 and just have the worst percentage. And that happened before, and Adelaide a few years ago had won the top percentage in outside of the top 8. So it does happen. And, really, really, Essendon are starting to find some good games to win. They do take on their Western Bulldogs back at Marble, so they're back in that style. They know how to play. Western Bulldogs will bounce back from that awful loss against Gold Coast. We'll share that very soon, but I think Essendon will really do dominate. This is not a home game for Essendon. It's a Western Bulldogs home game. So, but both each other's home ground. So it's a 50-50 game for that. But like I said, I'll share that really, really soon. I think it'd be a good entertainment game from that part, but credit to Essendon with the win. We go to the might play of the game, and it's, like I said, it's going to be hard, and, someone like who has actually played more defence than forward, I'm going to give this man, Nick Martin from Essendon, 38 disposals, 8 marks, 5 tackles, 141 AFL fantasy, 73% defence, 27 in the forward. We had 76 disposal efficiently. Nick Martin had 30 uncontested possessions, 6 contested possessions. He had how many involved with 8 uncontested marks involved equals, like I said, marks overall. And he dominated 121 minutes and 2 seconds and 586 meters game. So, and that 1 clearances. So, and stop clearances is also include 1. So, 10 rebound 50s. So, I tell you right now, that's a great defence performance from Nick Martin. Heads up Sydney, bounce back, play well against Carlton and Essendon against Western Bulldogs. All right, we made it. We got the double Saturday night football for round 9. It is the Gold Coast Suns versus the Western Bulldogs in Darwin at TIO Stadium. And then we head to the Adelaide Oval, Port Adelaide versus the Adelaide Crows Showdown 57. So let's go to the Gold Coast Suns versus Western Bulldogs, as that is the first game followed by the Port Adelaide take on the Adelaide Crows in Showdown 57. Let's get on to the first out of 2 Saturday night games. And what games were they in the team? So let's get the first one, the Suns and the Bulldogs. We are in the warm conditions in Darwin at TIO Stadium. We got Gold Coast take on the Western Bulldogs. And what is 12 for the Gold Coast Suns versus Western Bulldogs was 9,816, and it was at TIO Stadium. Anyone can say that this was anyone's to choose to win. Both teams have host games and home games of this, but Gold Coast have won to win this as their home game. 1 out of 2 big games, and I tell you right now, this was actually anyone's to win. And final score, backing and bad scoring for both teams should be more accuracy, but warm conditions, could be raining, can be anything in Darwin. So I would like to let you all know the final score was 15 goals, 16, 106 to 14, 12, 96, 10-point victory to Gold Coast. We'll start with the Western Bulldogs. Look, that they are starting to come together as one. Some big winners. They've been the Giants in Canberra. They have won against We'll find out in just a moment with the Western Bulldogs in a thumping victory in Mars Stadium against Port Adelaide. So there's some big winners for the Bulldogs, with the Gold Coast Suns, they've had a very, very good season, and unfortunately that Q Clash 28 really didn't go their way, unfortunately. It was a really disappointing performance, but they never gave up. They came in that last quarter, really, really good game performance against their rivals, Brisbane Knights, which they totally hate each other on the footy field, but, it's going to be a bit heated on a Sunday night. Then they come to Darwin, an absolute point on a must reply, Damien Hubbard, the coach of the Gold Coast Suns, will be absolutely, okay, what do we need to improve against improved Western Bulldogs? And they did that beautiful. We'll move into, to Gold Coast. Look, well done on the win. It must be like knowing that Western Bulldogs had an easy road, easy home victory, go to Darwin and knew the conditions. They're from Gold Coast. They know what warm is. With the Western Bulldogs, they don't. And, they're from cold, hot, and very muggy conditions. So, moving forward into it, I think overall, all of the 4 quarters, the game was very, very close. It was under 4 goals all game. And credit to Western Bulldogs staying that game all night. But Gold Coast has taken the 10 points. They'll take the points big time. Lost against their rivals. And they are in the top 4 for a reason, Gold Coast. But they need to keep winning games. They want to make it a statement. They do take on Hawthorn, and I will share my reviews and thoughts for this game as well. But this is the second out of 2. We'll have the Sir Doug Nicholls round. Very important round for Indigenous athletes playing this great game in the Australian Football League. So it should be a good game, but you never know what can happen with Hawthorn. They just take that win over Melbourne. So yeah, that game back, big winners, and go and enjoy it and enjoy your time in Darwin. Now time for the game, player of the game. Now there's been some really entertainment choices of to choose, and it has to be the player of the game. It doesn't have to be a winning team or a losing team. It's to be the player of the game. But I'm going to give this man, Tom Lipitopio from the Western Bulldogs, absolutely dominating that defence, 64% to 36 in the forward half. 64% defensive, forward half is 36%. His sacks included 35 disposals, 15 contested possessions, disposal efficiently 71%. He included uncontested possessions 18. He included no goals, no goal assists, 11 goals, 11 score involvements, 6 marks, 108 minutes 58 seconds ground, 694 meters game. So there's a bit more. There's 10 clearances. That's big. That's a big role. And 10 tackles, 7 inside 50s, rebounds 50. So I tell you right now, and 140 AFL fantasy. Well done to Tom Lipitopio from the Western Bulldogs. And well done to the Western Bulldogs. Good effort on the performance, but Gold Coast, well done with the win. We come to the second of the doubleheader Saturday night footy. Back at the Adelaide Oval for another great game. Showdown 57. Port Adelaide versus the LA Crows. With the attendance of packed, sold out. 53,117 was for this Showdown 57. And some was Port Adelaide. Brilliant. Just to say that. Knowing that I am a Crows supporter. But this was a response that Port Adelaide were waiting to see, and it worked. And I tell you right now, they're going to come and they'll learn what they need to get on into next game. They do host the game, and I got to say, they take on Geelong. This will be actually a best test for Port Adelaide, exactly where they are, and hopefully Geelong win that game. But I just think Port Adelaide not in their right spirits. They've gone through so much during the week. We'll not go through too much detail, but, it is in Sir Doug Nicholls round, and they're hosting this game, and it's a really important game for the Port Adelaide, and I think it's going to be a really, for both teams losing, but I think Port Adelaide will have that extra momentum. I think they'll come and take on Geelong on a really heated condition, and they'll have a decent 45,000 for this game, because it was a response. Or whoever got selected deserved this win, and unfortunately the LA Crows got the W, and I can't say this is the game of the round. Now, I think maybe I put it the Cats and the Giants. I've also chosen that. They're also the upset and the absolutely game of the round. But credit to Port Adelaide, and I don't know how much they replied. They so much replied, and that last quarter cost them the game. 2 goals, 6 to 5, 3 goals, 3. So knowing that those 6 behinds, half of them should be goals, and Portato should just got the job done. I think it was a very entertainment. Both teams started well, then it was just close. It was, a few points at 3/4 time, and Crows just took control. And to name a few players totally dominated. Colin Rosie, congratulations winning the showdown medal. That is just the stats came through the important way of doing it. And then Riley O'Brien dominating. James Pinkley from the LA Crows dominating. His first ever showdown. We'll share that very soon. Then we have Ollie Wines. You have, Miles Bagman, from the Power. You've got Zach Brothers. You may not kick a goal, but got those really important stats. Riley Filful dominator, forward line, 10 marks, 3 goals. Ben Keys did some great moments. So that's, and Jason Holmeson's Francis. I reckon that will be one of the goals of the round. Israel Isaac, Reagan, King, the Mark King moment, dominating, including those 6 marks. One was a big saving mark. And yeah, but going into the LA Crows reviews, since they beat Carlton, Adelaide are absolutely in good form. Since they lost, they've went one step better, and holding on to that should be a free kick to Port Adelaide, and anything can happen from that 9 seconds of that game. But Port Adelaide Adelaide Crows so earned that win, and but we take the silverware back to the LA Crows, and it's going to be a more fierce showdown. 1-0 now, 29-28 in the showdown count, and it continues to be the best rival in the AFL and the best of all-time rivals. Both teams do not like each other, and I tell you right now, Adelaide Crows was one step better, and they started exactly right. Well, and Port Adelaide came back right behind each other's. So I think the LA Crows will be very much happy with that performance, and they should be very, very proud with themselves. Yeah, so well done. Credit to the LA Crows playing those 4 quarters. Really, really knowing Port Adelaide were going to apply back, and not much to say too much, but I would like to let you all know I ain't got both clubs should get better on grounds. I'll go to Port Adelaide's winning the showdown medalist, Colin Rosie. Well done on your game performance. 32 disposals, 4 marks, 5 tackles, 122 AFL fantasy, 1 goal, 68% in the defensive, was 32 in the forward half. We had 11 contested possessions, 63 disposal fixedly, which is fantastic. 11 contested possessions. Uncontested possessions is 17. He also included 7 score involvements, 1 goal assist. What a game performance. 684 metres game, 112.20 minutes on ground, time on ground. So 4 clearances, they're dominating that. 7 inside 50s, 4 rebounds. So, that little percentage, and celebrate that little moment. And I think the Crows really deserve that. There's so many players deserve a game of the round and deserve to be 100%. There's so many great players out there, but I'm going to give it to Riley O'Brien. 40 hitouts, 17 disposals, 5 marks, 5 tackles, 121 AFL fantasy, 69% defensive, 31 in the forward half, included 71 disposal fixedly. Riley O'Brien included 8 contested possession and uncontested possession 8 times. He had no goals, unfortunately, but he had 4 score involvement, 1 goal assist. He had 117 metres on game, so time on ground was 117 minutes. We had 133 A for fantasy. He had 2 clearances. He had centre bounce attenders with 25 times. 84 was ruck contest out of 40 I mentioned with those 5 tackles. 1 rebound in a rebound 50 was 1 time and so on. So well done to Riley O'Brien as the Adelaide Crows best player for the showdown. So well done to Cone Rosie, the captain from the Power, and the Crows ruckman. Riley O'Brien is the best on ground in my thoughts. Alright, that is all for the double header for Saturday night footy for round 9. Alright, we got 3 games remaining. We got the first game at a Super Sunday footy. What Super footy we had? It's the Richmond Tigers and West Coast Eagles at the MCG. Then we go down into the gallery of GMHBA Stadium. My thoughts also Geelong and GWS Giants was 100% the game of the round and finish off. Which I really think this was the best game of the round with North Melbourne and Brisbane at Nugent Stadium in Hobart. Alright, let's get to the first game of Richmond versus West Coast at MCG. MCG with 29,539 pack for Richmond vs West Coast. This game was a 2-point game. West Coast have everything in the bag. There's nothing to say about this game. West Coast second loss close for the season and they could not complete it. They had everything on the line for this game. They upset Richmond, but Richmond holding on a huge win. Making this breaking down. Look, West Coast did came back and, their third quarter did came for them to win this game. But unfortunately, that didn't do enough to win this game. They only kicked 4 goals 5 to Richmond 4 goals 8. So I tell you right now, it was very even in that second half. A lot better than but Richmond holding on a 2-point victory. The final score 11-15, 81 to 11-13, 79. This was going to be anyone's on the wire, and it's nothing to be too excited about. I will share a few of the players who did dominate. So let's go to Jack Graham from West Coast. Well done on your performance. Tim Tiartello from Richmond. We have Sam Banks from Richmond. The captain from Richmond, Toby Nurkopis, and Mr. Salim Baker from the West Coast Eagles, the former Tiger taking on at the MCG. So it was really must win for West Coast to get everyone on the win, and they just can't find a win. And I think there's going to be times that West Coast are going to be getting more headaches than ever. Again, the number 1 draft pick, that's just going to be. But we did not see this happen. Richmond has to be the bottom place. But it's turned to be West Coast season to do this. And they're just not in order at the moment. And, there's not much to say about West Coast. They're getting it's the losses they'll learn each week, and they need one step better next week. As West Coast will be playing they will be hosting St Kilda. So, it could be a winnable game there for West Coast, but unfortunately, back at home, get the West Coast supporters, get behind your team, because one step better, you never know what can happen with West Coast. But good effort, but Richmond, beautiful. You are having a perfect off-season into rebuilding season. You come some young kids coming on and playing 4 quarters of footy and you won it by 2 points. And, the names of those players, it's a team performance. And, you love MCG. And I said this in the last episode for the Aussie footy show. It was Richmond loved playing MCG and they did it, but it was a very scruffy game. But I'm going to come straight into my player of the game and I'm going to give it to, there is a few hard players, but this player just totally dominated, and I'm going to give it to this player. And Sam Banks, 28 disposals, 6 marks, 1 tackle, 93 A for fantasy, but it was 80% of defensive, was 20% forward. So well done on that. He had 3 contested possessions, but 21 uncontested possessions. He had no goals at all, but he had 1 goal assist and 5 scoring involvements. Sam Banks also included 106 minutes and 23 seconds on time on ground. His pressure act was 9, 660 metres game. So part 5 and overall, really well done, including also there's 2 clearances as well. And also 5 50s, 5 times. Rebound 50s 5 times. So, and 1 tackle, as I mentioned. So well done, Sam Banks from Richmond Tigers. Second Super Sunday afternoon football was, I think, the second game of the round besides Showdown 57. We have the Cats and Geelong, sexy Geelong Cats. Whoa, a lot of people saying that Geelong are going to win this game quite, no matter how much, just winning this game. And could GWS get their 4th straight win? Wow. I think this was a much better, fierce rival of ever. No Victorian team has won 5 in a row ever to go to Geelong and win. Now, they did start well. What I'm here on my screen, Geelong Desi responded. Then it was pretty even all game, but GWS wanted more. The Hummers responded that GWS wanted more, and they did it. So the final score, Geelong should won it, but the final score is 14-17, 101, 16-9, 105. So 4-point victory to GWS. That's it, their 5th straight win. And I gotta say, if you're a GWS Giants supporter, mate, the Army of Orange is back in town with a big win over that disappointing Sydney Derby. So it from last week at the SEG against the Swans, and fortunately the Swans went down against the Bombers. So I tell you right now, not much to say about this game, but big blow win. You know, you go and you don't have confidence losing from mistakes, and I tell you right now, it worked. You know, you're missing your best player and you still dominate. So when your best player is on and injured, playing some grand of footy for your Giants, and then all those losses they've done, so they'll be coming off from how many losses in a row for the Giants against the Crows. Then they went to Canberra to take on the Doggies. Then they went to back in Sydney, but went to the SEG loss. So there's 3 games in the row that GWS should won at least 2 out of those 4 games. And this is a winnable game, and they did it. They backed themselves, and no one saw this coming. They're a bit questionable, big question for the Giants. I really think they're not a top 8 side now, but they've got a good team. You got a good, and Kingsley will enjoy that win, and the GWS coaching crew will really do that. Chris Cott, the Cats, heads up, it's only a game of footy, but both, and I'll share this game for each team, but the Giants are back home against unusual Fremantle Dockers that hate travelling and love playing in Perth in front of there, and then the Cats on the road to Adelaide to take on the Power. Geelong will be taking on Port Adelaide in Adelaide, so they're both teams, one back at home, one on the road, so it's going to be a really, really interesting style of footy for the mighty Power and the Dockers. So you never know what can happen with Fremantle. They can play well against GWS on the road, so you never know what can happen, but GWS will get surely, and Geelong should win these games. They're both favourites to win these games, so you never know what can happen with that. So, making it short and sweet, I'm going to now head into my play of the game. Now, like always, and I've said it several times, hard players to pick, and it doesn't matter if it's a winner or a losing team, has to be a winner. Now, after that disappointing performance, this man has come so much improved. The former Western Bulldogs player, obviously who I'm going to choose, is Bailey Smith from Geelong. Dominated with a 35 disposals, 8 marks, 10 tackles, 149 able fantasy, 53 defensive, 47% forward, 71% efficiently with 10 contested possessions. Uncontested possessions with 24. He had 12 score involvements, 2 goal assists, He had 28% of pressure acts, 109.38 time on ground, 704 metres gained, 4 clearances. He includes 5 inside 50s and 3 times rebounds of 50. So 3 times rebound 50s. So well done, Bailey Smith from Geelong Cats, and well done to GWS with the win. Final game at Newton Stadium in Hobart for the first one, 2025, and many more, hopefully. North Melbourne and Brisbane with 7,395 pack. So this game, 10-11-71 to 10-11-71. Now, why I'm repeating that is the final score. A draw, the first one for the year. Now, I did mention that I was going to share about the draw from last year on Mother's Day was actually the Adelaide Crows and Brisbane Lions. So Brisbane Lions have actually experienced this twice. They've been away on Mother's Day twice, and what they get? A draw. Now they're winning Brisbane, and somehow North Melbourne found a way to draw their reigning premiers. So credit to North Melbourne. Going with North Melbourne, look, this is one step better. They take this and they'll take this as a win. Knowing that they're sick of losing. And I'll tell you right now, they'll be happy with this result. But they would prefer a victory. So no club song was sung for this game. So North Melbourne do play Richmond at the MCG, which would be nice to play on a nice big oval. A game for North Melbourne with Richmond. And as well, Brisbane will be hosting the Melbourne Demons. So I gotta say, North Melbourne, they're getting one step better for getting a win. And I think overall, I have more credit for North Melbourne than Richmond for next week. But we'll find out very soon. All my round 10 in first week of this Sir Doug Nicholls round. I don't know. It's gonna be a very hard tip to win, and I really think it's going to be a good game of footy. And wow. Let's get back to this game with Brisbane. Look, they should have won this game. This should be one in the books, and no one saw this coming with Brisbane. Going to the oval quarter by quarter. So they started well, but North Melbourne totally came back and they had a much better half. They actually won that last quarter. So knowing that North Melbourne can kick goals, but they can also almost win games. And being the reigning premiers is just so amazing in Hobart. Now, this is the first time that in history that in Hobart, no team has actually drawn in Hobart. So congratulations to North Melbourne and Brisbane win that. So overall, look at the example for some players. Dan Zico, Hugh McKingley from the Brisbane Lions, and then Trishan Excel and Luke Parker for North Melbourne totally dominated. There's so many other players, but because of this, I will now time to bring in part of the game. This is nice and short because of the amount of time we have in this episode. So it's a very, very hard to pick, and it can't go past a legend of all time. And I will give it to Hugh McKingley. 117 AFL fantasy, 27 disposals, 10 tackles, 5 marks, 62 defence, 38 forward half, 7 consistent possessions, 59% disposal efficiently. We included 19 uncontested possessions, 7, as I mentioned, contested possessions. They included 5 scoring involvement, 2 goal assists, 26 pressure acts, 98 minutes, 17 seconds, time on ground, 306 metres gained, and 4 clearances. So, and 8 inside 50s, that is pretty good effort. So well done to Hugh McKinley for the Brisbane Lions, and good effort both teams for the game. So right here at Newton Stadium for North Melbourne and Brisbane Lions. Okay, so time for round 10. We're almost at the halfway through of the 2025 AFL Premiership season, and I can't believe I can say, but so excited to share or 9 games. So let's get straight into it. We enter game 1 for round 10 to 9. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go from game 1 to game 9. Here we go. We welcome to your round 10 of the 2025 Premiership season for the AFL. The first game is the 15th of May, back on TIO Stadium in Darwin, and we got the Gold Coast Suns taking on Hawthorn. This is a pretty even 50-50 game, short and sweet. I'm going to share this, and I'm going with Gold Coast. I think they'll do well. I think it's going to be even. I think it's going to be under 3 goals, 15 points for me, and it should be a good game. We go to Friday, we're in Sydney. We got the Sydney Swans host the Carlton Blues. Well, Carlton big winners over the Saints at the MCG 7 days ago. And Sydney disappointing performance against the Mighty Bombers. No, one team just get lost and one team get the win and one team get the loss. So I just think Sydney at home are really better informed. They should be winning this game quite comfortable, but I think it's going to be a less than 2 goal. I think it's going to be a 10-point victory to the Swans. We go to Super Saturday football. We got 4 games to share, if that's correct. It is. So the first game we got at the MCG, it is the Collingwood and the Adelaide Crows, more likely the game of the round. We got the GWS Giants and the Fremantle Dockers and Geelong, Port Adelaide and Geelong. Saturday night football, we only got 1 game. It is the Western Bulldogs and Essendon. So let's get to the first out of those 4 games. It is the 12:50 slot on the 17th of May. Those 4 games are all, I just mentioned, all playing that time on that day and at night. So, wow, both teams are in very good form. You know, this could be the side of Ken Collingwood continuing their form after that good win against Fremantle on the road, or is Adelaide going to just take this win? I'm going to say I'm going to stick to the Crows. I think it's not much in betting. It is going to be a 50-50 game. It's going to be that close contest. I think Adelaide's are going to win this, and they're going to win by 5 points. But I think Collingwood will start out really firing, but the Crows will just continue the contest. So it's going to be a close game, and it should be a good one to watch. So the Adelaide Crows for me. Second game of out of 4 Super Saturday football. We're in Sydney, and we head to ENGIE Stadium, Sydney or Western Sydney. That's right, we have the Great and Western Sydney Giant hosting Fremantle Dockers. A model game for Fremantle should won against Collingwood at home, but unfortunately that's struggling a little bit. GWS Giant, big winners in Geelong. They'll be having some confidence to take in front of their Orange Army and taking this win to victory. So I'm chosen GWS to win by 20. We got Port Adelaide and they take on the Geelong Cats on what I should be a very interesting and entertaining on the same time slot, 3:45. Should be a good game. And both games are playing at 3:45 each. We got second time slot for that. First time ever seeing 2 Saturday afternoon twilight football ever in my life. But getting back to it, look, Port Adelaide, disappointing result. Better replied, knew that was going to happen, but they're back at home. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think Geelong is going to be a little bit damn sexy. I think they'll be in their sexy football and they'll bounce back from that awful loss they should actually won, and should be a good game performance, and Geelong will win this by 7 points. So the only 1 Saturday game, Western Bulldogs and Essendon. I'm going with Western Bulldogs. I think that's going to be safer. Essendon love playing marble. It's not their home game, but I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a 16-point win to the Western Bulldogs, but you know, they'll bounce back. Not just Essendon winning those 2 games in a row, not just Essendon winning 2 games in a row, but Western Bulldogs will bounce back and how good their team can be, and it should be a good contest. So Western Bulldogs by 16. 3 games to share on the 18th of May. The first one is MCG, Richmond and North Melbourne. So we'll share game, just break it down each and each. So I really think I'm backing up North Melbourne for this. Silly me not why I would choose Richmond. I think North Melbourne are 1 step away from winning this game. Even if not, well, they are favourites to win this game, but it doesn't mean anything, you know. But I think I'm backing them up more. I think it's just they've got better experienced players. I think they just got better exciting game of football coming ahead in their team. So which Richmond they are looking very good in their rebuilding season. I think they look really exciting and being that sexy Richmond football, but I really think North Melbourne for here for me. So I chose North Melbourne for this game. Second game in Brisbane, and it could be a very entertainment. Melbourne's in good form. Losing against Hawthorn, they will not bounce back from that awful loss. Knew that was going to be a test for them. Brisbane looked disappointing, but top of the ladder at the moment with that draw. I think they'll just go home and play their Brisbane sexy football. They've been that Lion spirit and been that take me home country road. Get Charlie Cameron a few goals. Has not yet to really have a dominant season so far. So make sure you do that. Look, Melbourne, the last 4 weeks been pretty strong, or 3 to 4 weeks. Doesn't really matter. But I really think that Melbourne will fired up really well, but I think partly with Brisbane, I think they'll win by 35 points. I think Melbourne will bring it. They'll do their best, but I think it's going to be a very strong Brisbane outfit will take the win. Final game for round 10, and what should be not that interested to what West Coast hosting St Kilda, untipped St Kilda, effort to effort. West Coast Eagles had a good, decent chance going into Melbourne and wasn't there to have a chance to win this game. But like I said, each week, I just don't know where West Coast are. They lose by 2 points. I don't know. They were winning that game against Richmond and they just look really flat. So I don't know overall where West Coast is, but they'll bring some heat and they'll bring it together, but they have to find a way to win the game. Footy. So that is all I'm going to say. Remember, play together. Listen to your coaches, listen to your coaches, listen to your leadership, and listen to each other. And make sure, being that contest football, you will do well. St Kilda don't know where they are at the moment. Yes, disappointing performance for some disappointing members of him, but against informed, unusual Curran Blues at this point. But I'm just going to say that St Kilda should win this game and win by 4 goals, but West Coast just have to find a way to be in that contest more than overall. So, well, there you have it. They're my predictions of who I think should win, and should be some really good games to watch. Not exciting games, but alright. So, let's end this show. Okay, so that's all we have on today's Aussie Footy Show, the 13th episode of the Aussie Footy Show, the Premiership Season 2025 for the AFL. Hope you all enjoy it. Well, I got absolutely the breaking news to tell you all. Please make sure wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, as well, the exciting all on Facebook, the BJ Show Facebook page. So, podcast page. The BJ Show podcast. So, they're on my social medias all the way. We've got some news to tell you, and we are 28 remaining downloads. All you have to do is press play of your favorite episode has been recent. You can listen to the recent. And let's hit 1,000 downloads on the 16th of May. So the time I record this, that week. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. We are making this goal even a lot earlier, and I've had some very nice help behind the scenes. I will not be sharing that, but really love your support no matter what. If I share your episode, share it with someone else. This BJ Show podcast means a lot to me. I'm reaching my goals and I'm not backing down on a goal. So 972 downloads overall. Now, I'll reach my 1,000k downloads, but I want to continue on it. I will let you all know that very soon, once I hit that close to that 1,000 downloads, or if you've seen a special episode of the 1,000 download episode, make sure you share it. But one more step will be the new goal will be coming up really soon. We'll share that. What's my next goal of the downloads, and hopefully we'll get some sponsors and get that started and get it all excited. I really like to get the next part of my podcast. But anyway, guys, ladies and gents, thank you so much. The BJ Show's out. Bye for now. Peace.